All right, hello and welcome. Today we're taking a trip back in time, stepping right onto the stage of 17th century England to talk about one of its most, well, scandalous and brilliant genres, Restoration comedy. We're talking theater that was sharp, witty, and seriously funny. Let's dive in.
But first, let me ask you something. Do you ever feel like our obsession with love, money, and social status is, a uniquely modern thing? Well, as we're about to find out, the playwrights of Restoration England might have a thing or two to say about that. So here's our game plan. We'll start with a little welcome to Restoration comedy itself. Then we'll meet one of its masters, George Farquhar. After that, we'll break down some of his cleverest plays, his stratagems, if you will, and finally, we'll see why these plays are still making us laugh centuries later. Okay, let's set the stage. We're in England, right after 1660. The monarchy has just been restored after years of some seriously strict Puritan rule, and that meant the public theaters, which had been shut down completely, are now roaring back to life with this brand new, provocative, and kind of liberated style. Right at the heart of all this was something called the comedy of manners. You can basically think of it as the reality TV of its day. I mean, it was a genre that put the often absurd and totally artificial behavior of the upper class right under a microscope, satirizing their every move with this absolutely razor-sharp wit. And here are the core ingredients that made it all work. You had this sparkling, super fast-paced dialogue. The plots were all tangled up in sexual intrigue, which was a pretty direct rebellion against the uptight vibe of the previous era. But it wasn't just for shock value. Nope. It was also a pretty relentless critique of the aristocracy. And what was everyone chasing? You guessed it. Love, money, and reputation. These plays were just full of these vibrant, complex characters who were desperately trying to climb or manipulate that social ladder. Now, to really get a feel for the genre, we've got to zoom in on one of its most important voices, the Irish playwright George Farquhar. Farquhar had a pretty fascinating, though tragically short life. He was educated at Trinity College in Dublin, but his career took a wild turn when he accidentally wounded a fellow actor on stage, and he gave up acting for good right then and there. But that accident is actually what pushed him into writing, where he found his true calling. He channeled everything he observed, from military life to high society, into his absolutely energetic plays. So how exactly did he do it? Well, let's take a look at two of his most famous plays to see how he put all these comedic principles into practice and really uncover the clever stratagems he used on stage. First up, we have what is arguably his masterpiece, The Beau's Stratagem, which he wrote in 1707. It's a total classic of the genre, and it just perfectly showcases his signature blend of wit, deception, and social commentary. Okay, so the plot is driven by this really simple but super cunning plan, a stratagem. Two charming but totally broke gentlemen, Aimwell and Archer, roll into town with a scheme. One pretends to be a wealthy lord, the other his servant. And their goal? Simple. Marry rich and solve all their money problems. Of course, things immediately get complicated with all sorts of colorful locals and some very unexpected romantic entanglements. And this is where it gets really interesting because the play is saying so much. Deception is literally everywhere. Characters are just inventing new identities left and right. Social status isn't just a backdrop, it's the entire game, and marriage is the #1 way to get rich quick. But, and this is Farquhar's magic touch, the play ultimately suggests that a genuine connection, true love, is way more valuable than any scheme. The year before that, Farquhar had another huge hit with The Recruiting Officer. This one takes us to a completely different setting, a small town during a big military recruitment drive. In this play, the charismatic Captain Plume is trying to sign up local men for the army, using all his charm and wit to do it. The play is just this hilarious satire of military life and all the pressures of honor and duty, and all the while, it's weaving in these really complex love stories. Farquhar actually drew on his own military experience, which gives the play this really authentic, raw energy. So, yeah, Farquhar was a giant of his time, no question. But what about the genre's lasting impact? Why are we still talking about these plays hundreds of years later? And of course, Farquhar wasn't working alone. He was a leading voice in a whole movement of brilliant writers. You had guys like William Wycherley, who is known for his really biting social critiques, and Sir John Vanbrugh, who is a master of romantic intrigue. Together, they helped define an entire era of English theater. So here's the bottom line. The reason it all still matters. The legacy is just immense. These playwrights influenced countless writers who came after them, and the themes they were digging into, the messy intersections of love, money, and social status, are just as relevant now as they were back then. Their witty commentary on society still lands, and that's why these plays are constantly being performed and studied all over the world.
This quote really just captures it perfectly. The plays are, first and foremost, incredibly entertaining. But underneath all the laughter and the wild schemes, they're inviting us to think about the universal complexities of our own lives and relationships.
And that kind of leaves us with one last thought. If Farquhar and his friends were alive today, with their sharp wit and their keen eye for social nonsense, who do you think they'd be writing about? Social media influencers? Tech billionaires? Reality TV stars? The targets might have changed, but the comedy? Well, it seems that lasts forever. Thanks for joining us.